Some years ago, a author by the name of Frederic Laloux published a book called Reinventing Organizations. In that book, he talked a lot about companies without managers, companies that don't have hierarchies, no managers, no bosses, but basically companies that rely on other mechanisms such as the advice process, agreements between individuals, and specific roles. And others have published similar work. Holacracy is a good example, exponential organizations. And the idea basically is, behind all these books, is that existing organizational forms, such as hierarchies and managers that tell people what to do and how to do it, are simply processes that are slowing us down, sap our energy, and turn proactive, hardworking people into passive, reactive zombies that only move when they're told to. In the recent years, together with a colleague, we did research on this topic and we investigated how well do companies actually work without giving teams and individuals specific guidance. And what we realized is that if teams do not have sufficient guidance, things start to become very chaotic. Basically, we see that we get a lot of local optimization, teams that start to do what is best for them, but there is no end-to-end optimization of the value delivery to customers. And to be honest, contrary to what we expected, we saw that teams started to invest many more resources into commodity functionality instead of a focus on differentiating functionality and innovation. The point of this video is to share that our learnings show that teams need some level of steering and alignment with the rest of the organization. And the challenge that many organizations are struggling with is how do we achieve the right level of steering and what are the right mechanisms of steering? And one of the topics that I believe is quite helpful in this context is to work with a KPI-driven system where teams are made responsible for improving a certain KPI without being allowed to affect other KPIs that other teams are responsible for outside of a certain guardrail levels. So what we then get is by aligning teams around measurable and quantitative KPIs, these teams then suddenly have a level of guidance and structure to focus their efforts in a way that they would not be able to do otherwise. Of course, in an earlier situation, we were in a context where teams were often made responsible for a particular component or subsystem. And that is viable as long as there is enough independence between the different components or subsystems. However, in practice, what we see is that there is a lot of end-to-end coordination required in order to be able to deliver the customer value that we're looking for. And that's why I believe that outcomes, focusing on outcomes, so the KPIs, and using cross-functional teams is a very effective way of giving teams as much autonomy as possible, but still allow them to deliver the outcomes that optimally benefit the company and the customer. So in the end, steering teams is a very sensitive subject. The idea is that many people believe that the more we leave teams alone, the better they'll do. In practice, that is not what our research shows. We do need a certain level of steering and alignment, but we also need much more empowerment and autonomy of teams than what we see in traditional organizations. So we should, and by focusing on quantitative measurable outcomes, the research shows that cross-functional feature teams and the right level of alignment around customer experience, architecture, and quality is what leads to the outcomes that we're looking for.